Recap. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 995, Chapter. The great auction hall surged like a restless sea, its tides rising and falling with every call of price and every flash of treasure. Time seemed to quicken within those grand stone walls. Item after item passed across the stage with astonishing speed, as though the entire gathering of cultivators had already etched their worth into memory long before arriving. No one here was ignorant. Every participant carried a keen understanding of value, and thus the prices rarely strayed far beyond expectation. Ordinary items stirred little more than passing interest. After all, such goods could be found in markets beyond these walls. Why squander hard-earned true origin stones in a place where only the extraordinary deserved attention? Yet, whenever a treasure of genuine worth emerged, the atmosphere would ignite like dry grass touched by flame. And so it was when the first mountain river stone appeared. A ripple swept through the crowd, soft at first, then swelling into a low roar of anticipation. The stone shimmered faintly beneath the light, as though containing the silent pulse of mountains and rivers within its core. Bidding rose swiftly. In the end, it was Li Weiwei who claimed it, her voice steady as she secured victory with an offer of 7,000 true origin stones. She stood on the threshold of the mountain river tier, her cultivation nearing a critical juncture. With such a stone, she could forcibly elevate her power to the low extreme, then slowly refine her comprehension afterward. Though this path inverted the natural order, it saved an immeasurable amount of time. For a genius pressed by fate and opportunity, time was more precious than anything. The second and third mountain river stones followed soon after, each igniting similar waves of competition. Yet the final victors remained nearly the same. Li Weiwei, Ji Yuner, Shu Yanyu. Their wealth, freshly multiplied through fortune and daring, now shone like blazing suns within the auction hall. Others could only grit their teeth as they watched these three figures sweep away prize after prize. And still, Ling Han waited. He remained calm, seated like a mountain unmoved by wind, his gaze fixed not on what had passed, but on what was yet to come. Time flowed on. At last, the treasure he sought was revealed, the cloud-piercing shuttle. It descended upon the stage like a fragment of the heavens themselves, sleek, refined, its form exuding a faint, suppressed power that hinted at boundless speed. A hush fell over the crowd. Then the elder spoke. The cloud-piercing shuttle begins at 100,000 true origin stones. Each bid must increase by no less than 5,000. A collective intake of breath rippled outward. Even the starting price was staggering. But hesitation lasted only a heartbeat. 110,000, 120,000. Voices erupted one after another, bids clashing like blades in rapid succession. Flight god tools were rare. Rarer still were those capable of such speed. In a world where life and death could hinge upon a single moment, such a treasure was not merely useful, it was a lifeline. The price surged upward like a rising storm. 200,000, 300,000, 500,000. With each increase, fewer voices remained. By the time the price crossed 500,000, the crowd had thinned dramatically. Even powerful forces began to hesitate, unwilling to pour such immense wealth into a single item. Still, the battle continued. When the bid reached 700,000, only 3 contenders remained. 730,000, going once. 730,000, going twice. The elder's voice rang out, his hammer poised to fall. 800,000. The calm voice cut through the hall like a blade, Ling Han. The elder's eyes lit up instantly, his expression blooming with delight. 800,000. The bid has risen to 800,000. From the third level, another voice responded, tinged with tension. 810,000. Ling Han did not even pause. 900,000. His tone remained casual, almost indifferent, as though he were discussing the weather rather than casting down a fortune. To him, this was the only treasure that mattered. Everything else was dust. Even if it meant emptying his entire wealth, he would not retreat. His opponent hesitated, the weight of the number pressing heavily upon his resolve. 910,000. A final, uncertain push. Then 1,000,000. The number fell like a thunderclap. Silence followed. The hall, once roaring with competition, now stood frozen beneath the crushing weight of that bid. 1,000,000 true origin stones. Even the great forces present found themselves wavering. They already possessed flight god tools. While more would never be unwelcome, this price had crossed a threshold few were willing to breach. After all, such treasures appeared every few years. Why pay such a heavy price today? No one spoke again. The hammer fell. Victory belonged to Ling Han. Yet the storm had not ended. The elder's lips curved into a knowing smile as he gestured once more. Heh. Next, we present a mysterious item. A woman stepped forward, her beauty radiant beneath the lights. Her attire revealed glimpses of flawless skin, her presence alluring enough to captivate countless gazes. Yet, not a single person truly looked at her. All eyes were fixed upon the tray she carried. Upon it rested a small pouch, simple, unassuming, yet somehow it held the weight of the unknown. What lies within? The elder asked, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. Has anyone heard of the godly tree, the reincarnation tree? Confusion spread like ripples across still water. What tree? Never heard of it? What kind of godly tree is that? Voices murmured, uncertain. Then, a sharp exclamation broke through the noise. Could it be that reincarnation tree? All eyes turned. An ancient elder sat among the lower ranks, his hair and beard as white as frost. Though his cultivation remained trapped at the consummate mountain river tier, his knowledge was vast, earned through countless years spent studying ancient texts. Elder Zhang? Someone asked urgently. Do you know of this tree? He nodded slowly, his voice carrying the weight of legend. The reincarnation tree is said to be a godly item not of this world. It possesses the power to draw one's divine sense into a journey of lifetimes. In the blink of an eye, one may experience 3 full reincarnations. A collective gasp erupted. If that's true, then any cultivation technique could be comprehended instantly. The hall exploded with excitement. Such a treasure defied reason. Any force would go mad to possess it. Ling Han's heart stirred. He recalled the reincarnation tea he had once consumed. A mere taste, yet it had granted him the experience of an entire lifetime. That single encounter had accelerated his comprehension of the shattering void tier and strengthened his divine sense beyond his peers. Could that tea have originated from this very tree? Then the elder spoke again, his voice laced with quiet satisfaction. This pouch contains a seed of the reincarnation tree. The reaction was immediate. People rose to their feet, eyes blazing with desire. For cultivators, accumulating origin power was not the true challenge. Time could solve that. Each minor level in the mountain river tier granted 100,000 years of life. Reaching the peak of origin power required only 10,000 years at most. But comprehension, understanding, the strengthening of the divine sense, these were the true obstacles. Yet beneath the reincarnation tree, a fleeting moment could equal an entire lifetime. What barrier could remain? What limit could not be broken? It's mine. I must have it. I will obtain it at all costs. Such thoughts surged through every mind present. And then, the elder laughed softly. I must clarify something first. The hall quieted. This seed has indeed been appraised as the reincarnation tree. However, according to legend, it does not belong to this world. No one knows how to cultivate it. A ripple of unease spread. And furthermore, ancient records state that the reincarnation tree requires 12 trillion years to mature. For a moment, silence. Then, if not for their dignity, many would have spat blood. 12 trillion years. Even if it could sprout, who could wait that long? A heavenly body tier cultivator, at their peak, could live for 40 million years, a mere fraction of that time. Compared to 12 trillion, it was less than dust. Even if planted today, the tree would outlive countless generations. Empires would rise and fall, clans would flourish and vanish, entire histories would turn to ash. Who would ever see its fruits? Interest collapsed like a crumbling mountain. The elder sighed inwardly, yet continued. The starting bid is 1,000,000 true origin stones. Each increment must be no less than 10,000. Despite everything, a few voices still rose. 1.01 million, 1.2 million. Some saw opportunity, not in cultivation but in trade. Perhaps another fool, or visionary, would pay even more. And then a voice echoed within Ling Han's mind. Buy it. It was the small tower. Ling Han's brow furrowed slightly. It requires 12 trillion years to grow, he replied inwardly. Do you truly believe I can live that long? The question lingered, hanging in the depths of his consciousness like a silent challenge, waiting for an answer. In the boundless river of time, even legends are but drifting leaves. 12 trillion years. Such a number was not merely vast. It was suffocating. It pressed upon the mind like an endless abyss, a span of time so unimaginable that even the heavens themselves seemed small before it. Ling Han stood in quiet contemplation, his thoughts circling like blades in a storm. Even within the Black Tower, where the flow of time bent to its will, where a single year in the outside world could stretch into 1,000, such a duration would still demand 12 billion years to pass. 12 billion years. He let out a slow breath. Even the greatest beings who stood at the Genesis tier, those revered as near-divine existences, were said not to possess eternal life. Their brilliance might illuminate the ages, but even they would eventually fade, immortals. That word was nothing more than a beautiful lie. They were merely stronger and longer-lived, nothing more. The small tower gently swayed, its voice calm yet resolute as it broke the silence. This reincarnation tree seedling, its value surpasses every treasure you possess combined. You must obtain it. Ling Han shook his head slightly, his tone carrying a trace of disbelief. Why must I obtain it? I cannot even use it. The small tower responded without hesitation, its voice sharp like a sudden strike. Who said you cannot? I have methods to accelerate its growth. Ling Han's eyes narrowed, a flicker of astonishment flashing within them. Accelerate 12 trillion years? I can nurture it into a small tree within 3 years at most, the small tower replied evenly. At that stage, it will grant your divine sense access to a realm where time flows far faster than the outside world. Ling Han froze for a heartbeat, then, fuck! The exclamation burst from him like thunder. You've grasped the secret laws of time, haven't you? He demanded, half in shock, half in excitement. If that's the case, why not use it on me? Let me enter seclusion for 3 days, compress it into 300,000 years of cultivation. When I emerge, I'll crush every one of my enemies beneath my feet. His imagination surged wildly, painting visions of overwhelming dominance, of standing above all rivals, like an invincible sovereign. But the small tower shattered those dreams without mercy. I have only recovered a fragment of my source power, it said flatly. In other words, I can only invoke the laws of time once. To use it on you would be a waste. Ling Han's expression stiffened. Then he sighed deeply, placing a hand to his chest in mock sorrow. Do you not fear wounding my fragile heart with such words? That does not fall within my scope of concern, the small tower replied coldly, its tone instantly reverting to its aloof and distant nature. Ling Han clicked his tongue and ended the exchange. Yet within his heart, a realization had already taken root. To others, the reincarnation tree was nothing more than a joke, a treasure whose value existed only in theory, forever out of reach. But in his hands, with the Black Tower, with the small tower, it would become a supreme opportunity that defied heaven itself. At that moment, the sounds of the auction drifted back into his awareness like distant thunder. 1.5 million. The price of the reincarnation tree had already surged far beyond its starting bid, climbing by 50%. Yet the atmosphere had grown noticeably quieter. Fewer voices, fewer competitors. Because everyone understood the same truth. It wasn't worth it. No one present could live long enough to witness the seed grow into a towering tree. Not their children, not even generations beyond. At best, it could only be resold, but at such a high price, even that path offered little hope for profit. Then, 2 million. Ling Han's voice rang out, calm yet absolute. The entire hall fell silent. That single bid cut through hesitation like a blade through silk. No one dared follow. Because this was no longer a contest of value. It was a gamble against madness. What if Ling Han stopped here? What if someone else raised the bid, only to be abandoned? The result would be devastating. Even Zhao Lun, whose hatred toward Ling Han burned like a raging inferno, clenched his fists but said nothing. He did not dare. He could not afford to dig his own grave. As for the others, they lacked the Black Tower. They could not comprehend the possibility of compressing 12 trillion years into mere years. How could they dream of such a miracle? The elder's voice echoed once more, tinged with faint disappointment. 2 million, going once. 2 million, going twice. 2 million, going 3 times. Sold! The hammer fell. A treasure that should have commanded hundreds of millions of true origin stones, reduced to a mere fraction of its theoretical worth, all because time itself had rendered it unreachable. But Ling Han smiled, a quiet, satisfied smile. Within 2 or 3 years, he would possess a reincarnation tree. And with it, his spirit would gain boundless space to evolve. Though he was known as the Alchemy Emperor, he understood one unchanging truth. Pills could refine the body. They could strengthen origin power. But comprehension, that was something no external force could grant. It required time, endless time. And now, he would have it. In that realm of accelerated time, even the dullest creature could ascend step by step, eventually reaching the Genesis tier. Even a pig could become a supreme expert. But just as his thoughts soared, the small tower struck again. "It is not so simple," it said coldly. "Entering the spiritual realm of the reincarnation tree consumes its mystical essence. The more individuals who enter, the greater the consumption." Ling Han's smile froze. Then he groaned, dragging a hand down his face. "Couldn't you have told me earlier? I feared you would become stingy and refuse to purchase it." "Fuck!" Ling Han nearly choked. But soon, he shook his head with a wry smile. He understood himself well. Even if he had known, he would not have turned away. How could he? This opportunity was too great, too rare, too heaven-defying. The auction continued, treasures appearing one after another like stars in the night sky. When the Mountain River stones were presented, Ling Han chose not to compete. Li Weiwei, Ji Yuner, they were his allies, his companions. Li Weiwei had even stood up for him in the past. There were some things that could not be measured in stones or gold, and so he stepped aside. Instead, he focused his efforts elsewhere. He acquired several pill recipes, precious knowledge monopolized by powerful forces. He purchased medicinal ingredients in abundance, and by the time the auction drew to a close, of the 4 million true origin stones he had once possessed, less than 10,000 remained. Yet Ling Han felt no regret. Wealth existed to be used. What value was there in hoarding it, counting it day after day like a miser? When the final item was sold, attendants began delivering purchases to their respective buyers. After settling his payments, Ling Han made his way to the private bank. The remaining balance on his true origin stone card, 10,000, was easily withdrawn. With matters concluded, he prepared to return to the academy. But just as he stepped out, a figure approached. A young woman clad in black leather stopped before him, her presence striking and impossible to ignore. The tight contours of her attire accentuated every curve of her body, her slender waist flowing into full, rounded hips that swayed with natural rhythm. Under the faint gleam of light, the leather shimmered, lending her an aura both wild and dangerously alluring. "Young Master Ling," she said, her voice smooth. "My young master invites you." Ling Han's gaze flickered. "And your young master is?" "Sha Yuan." "Young Master Sha," she replied. She was Liu Ying, one of Sha Yuan's personal guards. Sha Yuan. The name stirred a faint memory. Ling Han had not known him before, but later Li Weiwei had mentioned him, the man who had intervened during his confrontation with Zhao Lun, a man who had stepped forward only to step back after receiving benefits. Ling Han's impression of him was far from favorable. Still, after a brief moment of thought, he nodded. "Lead the way. Please follow me, young Master Ling." Liu Ying turned, her steps light yet deliberate. Ling Han followed behind, and almost immediately regretted it. Her figure moved like a living temptation, each step causing her hips to sway with mesmerizing rhythm. The sight alone was enough to stir primal instincts. For a brief moment, he felt like a beast struggling against its own nature. Without hesitation, he quickened his pace, stepping forward to walk beside her. Liu Ying's lips curved into a subtle smile. She knew. Of course she knew. A faint sense of pride flickered in her heart. After some time, they arrived at a pavilion. Though night had already deepened, the place remained lively, filled with a steady stream of patrons entering and leaving. Yet the moment Liu Ying appeared, the atmosphere shifted, expressions stiffened, eyes lowered. No one dared look at her for more than a fleeting glance. She was Sha Yuan's attendant. To gaze too long could invite disaster. Without pause, she led Ling Han to the 3rd floor, stopping before a private room. She knocked lightly. Young Master Ling has arrived." A voice drifted out from within. "Enter." Liu Ying pushed the door open and gestured. Ling Han stepped inside without hesitation. Within the room, Sha Yuan reclined leisurely, a cup of wine in hand, Two beautiful women nestled against him, their garments half loosened, revealing skin as smooth and luminous as jade. Behind him stood three more women, their attire sharp and refined, their expressions cold and unmoving like carved stone. "Ha! Please, take a seat," Shaiyuan laughed, gesturing casually to the seat opposite him. He did not rise, not even slightly. Linghan's eyes narrowed imperceptibly. So this was how he treated a guest? Displeasure stirred within him, but he suppressed it. He had come to see what this man wanted. Taking his seat, he faced Shaiyuan directly. Shaiyuan did not waste time. His gaze sharpened, his voice cutting straight to the point. "I will be frank. I want the secret technique you use to cultivate your physique." He paused, then added with a confident smile, "I will pay you whatever amount of true origin stones you desire."